All right. Hello, welcome everyone. This is the Monday, October 3, 2022 meeting of the Sustainable BC Committee. We're coming to order at 3:30 p.m. Present here in the Zoom are most of our usual cast of characters, committee members. We do have one guest with us, Janine Reed, who is a potential member. Jean has submitted an application to be a member. So in a second, when I'll just ask everyone to go around and introduce themselves, just your name and either your position with the city or as a community volunteer or whatever it is has you here on the committee. I did, just as attendance is concerned, I don't remember if I forwarded to everyone. I don't think I did. Josh Etheridge a couple of days ago sent a resignation in. His job has changed to the point where he just was not going to be able to be at these meetings. So he sent a resignation, along with a note, thanking us. And, maybe he can be back engaged again at a future date. So Josh will not be here. Kathy Antea, who is generally pretty reliable member, is away at a conference. She's out of town up north at I believe it's an MSU extension conference that Kathy is at. So Kathy will not be joining, but she's definitely interested in the forestry and the updates and stuff. And so we'll said she definitely would watch the meeting afterward. Also, a new member, Frank Drury, also had a work conflict today, but touched base with me and we'll definitely watch afterward as well. Mayor Benke, Mark, I know was planning on being here. He sent an email just a little bit ago with his impressions from the field trip that some of you took down to the recycling center in Elkhart. So if you have a minute and can take a look at his email summarizing his thoughts there, some good thoughts on that experience and some creative ways of moving forward. So he might be joining us. He usually joins on his phone. But that's that. So let's just go around real quick, introduce ourselves. I'll just call. I'll just call on folks for ease. Just as FYI, another FYI, Janine, the City of Battle Creek IT, they're here to run the meetings. They're not a participant. And same with Lisa Silkworth at the city's clerk's office. She doesn't actually participate in the meeting. She's there though, waving her hand.
When we take attendance, can you make sure they say where they're zooming in from?
Yes, please. All right, so I am Andy Humboldt. I'm a former city commissioner and the community volunteer chair of the committee. I'm zooming in from my home in City of Battle Creek. Bessie.
Hi, I'm Bessie Steers. I'm with the City of Battle Creek, remoting in from my home in Battle Creek. I'm the environmental program coordinator for the city.
Hey, Bessie moved to town. All right.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Sarah Kelly, the solid waste recycling coordinator for Calhoun County. I am zooming in from the county building in Marshall, Michigan.
Thank you. Bob?
I'm Bob Gilbert. I'm a community volunteer, and I am zooming in from my office in Dowling, Michigan.
All right. Kiana?
Iona Ackley, joining remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
All right, Kiona's a community volunteer as well. Mark, I believe that's your number.
Yep, this is Mark, City Commissioner, and I'm in my car in Battle Creek.
All right, be safe, sir. All right, Jill.
Jill Anderson. I am a community volunteer, joining you remotely from downtown Battle Creek.
Alrighty, Patty and Kurt.
I'm Patty Hiltz-Meliuish, Environmental and Storm Service Manager, City of Battle Creek, and we're at the Department of Public Works in Battle Creek.
Kurt Tribbett, City Engineer or Engineer Administrator is my title with the City of Battle Creek.
He's sure. All right, Jean, you just want to say hello, your name and where you are.
Sure. Janine Reed, I'm a community volunteer applicant, and I am Zooming from Traverse City, Michigan, where I'm on a little vacation.
All righty, awesome, thank you. And am I to assume that James Gray, are you our forester?
Yes, your forester is here in the forest.
I see. Well played, sir. Well played.
Hi.
All
I'm
right, hello,
over east of Flint here, working on a project for a school forest.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, we will return to you in just a minute, James. Okay. Is James okay? You go by James, I assume?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll come back to you, man. Let's just I believe we do have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So we have a couple minutes documents to approve. And then we'll go back to James to talk forestry.
Sounds great.
All right, so the May and June meeting minutes were sent by the clerk. We have a couple. We didn't have a quorum at the June meeting to approve the May minutes, so we have both of those minutes. Minutes are pretty basic at this level, so hopefully folks had a chance to review those. I would entertain a motion to approve those two sets of minutes.
So moved.
All right, moved by Jill Anderson to approve both minutes. Is there support?
Kiona, support.
All right, supported by Kiona Ackley. So moved and supported to approve the May and June minutes. Is there any discussion, question, comment, concern, anything about those minutes? All right, then, seeing none, those in favor of approving both sets of minutes, please say aye or wave affirmatively at this time.
Aye.
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 All right, are there any opposed? All right, then I'm showing a unanimous approval of the May and June minutes. All right, thank you all. I see Michelle Frank has joined. I spoke with Michelle Frank, reached out to me about the committee wanting to be able to see what was up and attend a meeting. So Michelle is here. I see on the meeting. Michelle, we'll come back around. There'll be space at the end for public comment where you'll be able to comment and ask questions. So the floor will be open to the public at that point. But for now, let's move forward. And Patty, before I just turn it over to James, I don't know if you had spoken with James about how you want to go about this or whatnot. But the overall idea is for us to just hear about the city's forestry program from James and be able to ask questions and whatnot.
That's correct. I thought just kind of introducing himself, we thought would be good, and just telling us what he plans to do for the city, and have him available to answer questions. So you're exactly right.
Right.
Yeah, if the committee members, we went through an RFP process, and as part of that committee, we selected James as our forester to start. We have a plethora of a forest property in the city that it's a resource that's just they're not being managed or tapped, so we have engaged James to show us the right way and how we can start using this resource better.
Yep.
And, both environmentally and financially too.
Okay. Just for folks' information as well, another bit of information. The city does have a tree committee. So obviously, this committee and the work we do in the sustainability plan, trees and everything Kurt just said is an important part of that. But there is also a specific tree committee as well that I'm assuming will be involved. It met fairly infrequently in past years, but I'm assuming that will become more of a thing as we go on. All right, James, yes, to go for it. Let us know about you and your vision for your work here. And Well, yeah.
All right, sounds great. Well, hello everybody, and thank you for welcoming me to this meeting. This being able to speak with you is really important to me, and I think a critical part of the work that I do and that I'm I'm trying to achieve. And so I'm based in East Lansing. My company is called Natural Capital Forestry, and I studied at Michigan State, got my master's degree in forestry there. And I've had my company for about 6 years now. And in the past, I've worked in some different capacities. I've worked quite a bit overseas. I did my master's work and some interesting work on sustainable forestry and carbon in Guatemala. And I've been involved in kind of environmental STEM education. I worked at the MSU Forestry Department, working on international projects funded by the State Department. My focus is, obviously timber is a big part of forestry, but the theme of ecosystem services is a big, kind of how I try to organize my forestry work. And so, intact forest ecosystems provide us with this incredible array of services from obviously natural beauty and cultural, spiritual aspects, all the way to erosion control and providing us with oxygen. And then we have the kind of the big issue now of climate change, and we're adding additional carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, and trees and forests are a natural solution to help us start to get our arms around that issue. So if we can improve the health of our forests and the extent of them, then we're actually going to also be kind of making some steps on make some progress on the climate issue. It's not a panacea, but it is one important part of that solution. And so there's some really interesting forestry works now on how to manage forests for ecosystem integrity, ecosystem services, getting income, but then also thinking about diversity, resilience, carbon storage, increasing aesthetic beauty. And so that's how I'm approaching my work with Battle Creek. And I have a kind of a side gig where I also work with organizations to manage their to manage the carbon emissions. So I've worked for a long time with a community college and done their greenhouse gas inventory. And then, I just see a lot of good ties between kind of that greenhouse gas management on one hand and forestry on the other. And so, I think that's where a really interesting tie-in could come in with your committee, because trees are just these incredible providers of all these services, and carbon being among them, and some more, a couple more services, filtering pollutants and filtering stormwater, all that stuff. And so if there's a way we could kind of do our work together so that we're maximizing all of those benefits for the entire community. And my thing is all about involving the community and participation and education and getting excited. I love forests. I love forestry. I'm trying to do more kind of urban work as I go. And so anyway, I hope we can, this can be kind of the start of a long-term conversation where we're, integrating both the larger forests and the urban forests into the big sustainability picture for the city. So.
All right. A couple things right off the bat. First, just another point of information for folks here who might be watching. Our contracts, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kurt, but the contract with the city's contract with James is pretty new, like just within the last few months. So it's not like the work is brand new. So questions about what happened 2 years ago? James doesn't know. He just So I just want to put that out there. A couple of things, and I'll make sure we have questions from everybody. When you say work with a community college, do you mean the community college here in Battle Creek, or in Lansing, or somewhere else? Where?
I used to work at a community college in Southeast Wisconsin in Kenosha. And
okay.
so that community college district, I do the annual greenhouse gas inventory for that system. It's 5 campuses in Southeast Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
And so, and then I interface with there's the Second Nature organization that, it's kind of this, this group of institutions of higher learning that are, they make a climate commitment, and they commit to doing greenhouse gas inventories, setting goals, reducing their emissions. And so anyway, I'm familiar with that, that side of things. And then so there's that. And then but to finish answering your question though, I'm just starting. I'm collecting data right now, and I'm going to put together a forest management plan, which can then feed into potentially help us to apply for some grants and do integrated forest management income, but then also just getting rid of invasives, improving the diversity and so forth. So that work is in process. I'm collecting data right now.
All right, very good. Shoot, that all reminded me of another question, and then what I was going to say, one thing that we've talked about often here over the last few months, and we're about ready to do over the next few months, a new iteration of our sustainability plan is kind of what you're talking about how do we actually start to drill down and measure our emission, carbon, essentially. How do we measure emissions and the value of the trees we have, all of that. So it sounds like you have experience with that, and will be a good resource. All right, I'll open it up to committee members. Questions for James. Go ahead and just speak up. We'll be okay.
Hi, James. This is Bob Gilbert, community volunteer.
Hi, Bob.
Nice to meet you. We've heard about you for a little bit here, so I'm glad to meet you. I was just wondering, everything, I was intrigued with what you were saying, like managing the forest to protect ecosystem services, kind of paraphrasing what you say, and calling attention to all those ecosystem services. I'm a big proponent of that myself. And but you said something in there, like when you're working with a group like a city too, like you have to take into account, I don't know if you use the term cost effectiveness, the cost of forests. So how do you do that? Like, what's the methods for protecting ecosystem services, which typically they provide value, but not necessarily like a cash payout, something like that. So if you want to be cost effective about that, could you elaborate on that a little bit more? How do you do that?
Sure. Well, the provision of timber and other forest products is one of those services that a forest provides. And so, everything, especially in an urban setting like this, there, in a lot of cases, the standing trees are worth more, more than the harvested trees, right? So,
yeah,
it all comes down to balance, and so, but essentially, if you don't have the the ecosystem integrity, you're not going to have those services. So kind of the top priority would be, essentially maintaining your very, keeping your very best trees in place for genetic vigor, for seed production, and and essentially kind of taking some of the surplus, so to speak. I guess I don't know if that's the best word, but trees that are in decline or eventually are going to die, and so use that as kind of a way to get your economic value. But the the priority for for the way that we're approaching these forests is that, you know, we're kind of following an ecosystem model rather than a timber production model. And so we're looking at, you know, we're looking at ways to, you know, increase diversity of all kinds, species diversity, but then also age diversity. And so in kind of in general, the, you know, after our big cutover in the late 1800s or the early 1900s, you know, things have kind of frozen in a way. Forests have grown. We you know, there's been more growth than harvesting. Invasives have come in, and you know, there's kind of a lot of uniformity. And so, you know, a way to both make forests more resilient and then also get some of that economic value would be to, you know, add some age diversity to these forests. And so, you know, you've got a lot of closed canopy forests. You've got the, you know, your kind of your forest overstory, and you know, there aren't a lot of gaps, and there's not a lot of vegetation down below. So, you know, in a lot of cases, you know, you don't have a new generation coming in because, you know, we don't have fire, we don't, you know, when we do have storms, but, you know, things just aren't as dynamic as in the past before, you know, humans kind of came along, and, you know, we're doing more to, you know, manage things for humanity these days. And so that's what I'm trying to do with this is, you know, maintain the ecosystem integrity and, you know, get that economic value, but in ways that we're going to, you know, increase that diversity. So, you know, we do some harvesting, for example, some small harvests in areas maybe that are in decline. We're going to have, you know, younger forests coming in of a bigger mix of diversity. If we can get those invasives out, you know, protect those seedlings, you know, we've got better habitat and then more diversity all around.
So as I suspected, like timber harvesting will be part of this management plan, as I think it is in many plans.
Yeah, strategic, but, you know, not the top priority, but yes, that will be one of the objectives.
Okay. And does your company do the harvesting, or do you contract that out?
I contract that out. So typically the process is such that I'll do all of the preparation, so mark the trees to be harvested, count up the volume, create a prospectus, and then, you know, in most cases, send that directly to the timber buyers, and, you know, and then we'll have, you know, have a certain you know, period where the buyers can review the sale, make bids, have a closing date. You know, I assume I would collaborate with the purchasing department of the city, and in this case, and so you know, we would harvest a contractor to do that.
Okay. Okay, thank you, James. I appreciate that.
Sure, Bob.
Update.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Other folks, committee members?
James, this is Jill, community volunteer. Just wondering, you mentioned that you wanted to involve the community, and I'm wondering, Bessie and Patty do that pretty well with cleanup days and recycling events. Just wondering what your thoughts are on how to involve the community.
Sure, that's yeah, thanks, Jill. I think it would be neat to have some, you know, have some events where, I mean, I would need to talk with, you know, with Kurt and Patty and so forth, but you know, I'd like to be involved in events, whether it's you know, the tree planting events and events like that, but then also, you know, for example, one thing I'm doing with this this harvest that I'm doing right now for the school district is, you know, in advance of putting the timber sale onto the market, you know, essentially invite stakeholders to come and review what the proposed harvest is, and kind of explain why, you know, why we're doing what we're doing, what the future vision is. Like, for example, we're doing kind of some tree planting and restoration afterwards, after the harvest, and potentially some controlled burning. And so, if we could have community walks to review that, that would be great. And, before and after, or both. And so, but, and otherwise, and as you noticed in my proposal, there is the arboretum, which is pretty close to some of the areas where we'll be working. And so I think it would be great to get kids out and teach them basics of forest ecology. And then also with the timber harvest, maybe we could do something like have some plots to monitor how the forest is rebounding after, regenerating after a harvest. And so if we could have ongoing programs, then I love working with kids. I'm like, for my son's high school Spanish class, I'm developing kind of a English, Spanish, forest, trees, ecosystem services kind of activity. And so if there's any centers or anything like that where there are existing programs, if we could kind of tack onto that, that would be great. I have experience in developing kind of activities for both youth and adults.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, we do have a math science center here in town, where the high school serves high schools from all over the Battle Creek area. I know we've talked about them before. I know with Patty, and Patty mentioned a few meetings ago about how at one point they were doing river sampling or something. I don't remember the exact nature of that, but that's definitely a potential partner too, where you might have a built-in group of youth and school folks who would be interested in.
Yeah, that sounds great. And among the activities that I have already, I have kind of a sort of a what does a forester do kind of activity. And I have these like here I have my forestry stick for measuring the diameter of trees. I kind of took some garden stakes and essentially made a whole set so we can get the kids out in the forest and measuring trees and kind of doing their own practice with working with data and talking about forest ecology and what do foresters do, how would one do a harvest and why, and those sorts of things.
Yeah, there's also I don't know what exact areas you're going to be working in, but out there kind of across the street from the Arboretum is one of the public middle schools. So who could you'd potentially have a group of middle schoolers and within walking distance to some of your work right there. I'm just guessing off the top of my head, but yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Other questions from committee members?
Andy, if I don't mean to hog all the time, but could I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
James, do you know how many acres you're going to be managing? How many acres does the city have to manage?
Well, let's see. I think Kurt, can answer that better. I'm kind of starting with the drain fields or the well fields, and then kind of along the river to start. And then, it sounds like we kind of have an eye on a certain grant. So I think I'm going to start with kind of something in the area of 150 or so, but then, I know, Kurt kind of has some thoughts about short, medium, and long term. So I think he might be able to give you a better idea of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so of course, this is a new program, so we're kind of dialing in exactly what we want to do, but we have kind of 4 forces we're looking at right now. Verona, the Verona well field is about a 60-acre area. And it's a younger forest, but we're already, and it was great to, we toured these forests with James, and I learned a lot just from just being with him and seeing things. But it's pointing out some of the there's some rot in some of the oaks trees out there, and that was kind of important, trying to contain that from spreading. And those might be trees you do need to take down, so you can promote a healthier forest. But anyhow, that I digress a little bit. But that was one of the forces we're looking at that to manage, and we're really looking for a couple spots to kind of showcase what we're going to do, just to build that momentum. So we thought Verona would be a good spot. There's quite a bit of wood along Jackson, just beyond Jackson, where Stringham takes that turn. And that almost, it goes all the way to Clark Road. So there's a big area there that's kind of a lower area, but that was one we wanted to kind of look at. And as James mentioned, that he's got a site on some U.S., I think they're EPA grants or U.S. grants that work through the Michigan DNR that would help with minimizing invasives. I would also, there'd be some tree planting to do. So that's one place we're looking at. Fell Park's another one that's more of a mature forest. But again, it looks like there, the maple trees may be taken over there. So you want to, try to keep some of the oaks and the walnuts and the things like that. So trying to keep that diversity going from, I guess, and this is what I learned, I guess, and James, you can correct me because I'm certainly a student here, but learning that the maple trees eventually take over a forest. So that's, so we want to contain that somewhat, and then be able to showcase some of these, what we're, attempting to do, and build some momentum from there. So like I said, so a new program, and I'm kind of excited about it, and I'm just feeding off James's energy too. So he's very passionate about it. He's got a great, just reading through his RFP, just a great rapport with students. That seems like passion, and like you said, Patty and Bessie know how to get our students and get their attention. So I think there's an avenue there to go. So no pun intended, but a lot of branches this program can go through. So just trying to dial down where we're best to use our energy at.
Thanks, Kurt. But kind of like what Kurt is referring to, when you have that uniform shady canopy, then you just kind of have this cohort of maples coming in that can handle those, or can thrive in those shady conditions, and you just have this uniform lower diversity forest on its way. And so it's a good time to actually think, okay, well, let's kind of nip that in the bud. I mean, there's nothing wrong with maples, but let's diversify things so that we have both maples and oaks and cherries and sassafras, and as many as we can, because as we've seen with emerald ash borer and some other species where we could actually lose a whole species of tree, and if that's all we've got, then we're kind of up a creek. And so but then to dovetail from what Kurt was saying, the first grant that we're looking at is a Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant, and it's for U.S. Forest Service and Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, but kind of that theme of water quality is where we're going to start. So obviously with the Verona well field, I mean, it's like, okay, clean drinking water, that is super high priority. And we've got invasives just charging in like mad. And so if we can also nip that in the bud and get that diverse forest in there, and if we can plant more trees that are going to do well on the site, we're also talking additional carbon on the site, and we could even look at potentially receiving payments for the additional carbon that is stored in trees. So I haven't seen anything for municipal entities yet. I have to do some more research on that, but theoretically that could be an avenue to look at for additional income, for trees standing instead of trees being harvested. So that kind of gets back to that question of that earlier question about how we want to improve ecosystem services. Then let's get more trees planted, and we've got the services provided by those, especially carbon and then water quality.
So that Great Lakes Restoration Grant for water quality, do they have restrictions on that grant? Like, are they looking for you to plant more vegetation near water to protect the water quality? Is that the purpose of that grant?
So with this particular one, we are looking at, so I have to look at it closely, but I think we're looking at essentially ecosystem restoration. And so it wouldn't necessarily have to be tree planting, but kind of looking at all those issues. Tree planting would be a big part of it, but invasives, reducing the prevalence of invasives would be another big part of it. And then diversifying the whole system would be another.
Okay. And just one more question. I have many more.
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
I'll just do one more if you
Make it quick.
Okay. All right. So the last question then, I know that when you're looking at the economic value of the forest, that you probably are very good at being able to identify the value of timber. But do you have any method for putting an economic value on the ecosystem services themselves? Is there a formula to do that?
Yes, there is an incredible initiative and program called iTree. And it's a collaboration among the Forest Service and a number of researchers throughout the country. And there's a suite of programs in iTree, and it's kind of focused on urban trees, individual urban trees. But you can, there's like a simple version and then a more sophisticated version. But essentially, you can say, you can pick an individual tree and, using Google, the Google interface, and be like, okay, this tree right next to City Hall, you can actually pick it. You need to go measure its diameter, and then, measure the distance from the building, and you can actually calculate all the services that individual tree provides. So, reduction in heating and cooling costs, and stormwater collected, pollution intercepted, all those things. And then you can scale that up for an entire neighborhood or city or so forth. And so it's really cool. It's just amazing that. So I would download that, and I'm actually working with a neighborhood here in Lansing where we're trying to do just that, quantify the value of all the trees in the particular neighborhood, and do art projects like paint stumps, and kind of have like try to find the individual stories of trees, like who planted this, have kids write a song or poem, all that kind of stuff, species.
All right. Very cool. All right. Thank you, James. Thanks for your thoughtful answers. And thank you, Andy, for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's fun.
So Kurt, is it, am I gleaning then from this that James' work in this forestry contract is focused on these large forestry tracts, and that it's not really like his services aren't being used for like these individual urban, like trees along streets and trees in neighborhood parks and that level
Yeah, that's correct. And you mentioned we have a tree committee, and I feel like a tree committee is more for the, the picking out the trees that we want to plant, like in our we just had the river cleanup this past week, Saturday, where they the tree committee kind of picked the trees that we should plant.
Right. Okay.
I mean, not that we couldn't use James because he's an expert in that category.
Right. Like, yeah, if you had some kind of situation at a park and you're like, what do we do? What should we do here? You could get some advice.
Kurt and Patty will loan me out.
All right. Loan you out to Todd. All right. Let's move along, and we're running out of time. We have a couple other things we want to make sure to get to. So if committee members, if you think of other questions or things that you're curious about, questions that you'd like answered or not, feel free to send them to me or just to write the, email them, email Patty questions and she can get the answers, or Kurt or somebody. All right. Thank you very much, James. We're going to move on. If you'd like to stay and listen to the rest of the meeting, that's fine. If you need to go off to whatever else you're doing, that's fine too. But thank you very much.
My pleasure. Great meeting you all. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna, unless anyone has objections, I'm gonna skip around in the agenda a little bit to make sure that we're getting the stuff that we need to by 4:30. Namely, I want to give a couple minutes to Janine to introduce herself a little more fully and just describe her interest in the committee. So, Jean, why don't you just give us a couple minutes on who you are and your interest?
Okay, thank you, Andy. I blame Bob Gilbert completely for my presence here today. I've been volunteering out at Pierce Cedar Creek. I'm just starting into my second year of volunteering with the stewardship program, Mary Parr, and seed collecting, some of the controlled burns, some of the plantings, some of the native plant sales that they have in the springtime. And I'm by profession, I'm a registered nurse, and I retired from Munson Medical Center in Traverse City, and several years back moved back to my hometown of Battle Creek. I built a little house up on North Avenue, and through a number of all the right reasons, sold my house and moved into the Battle Creek Tower, downtown Battle Creek, and have had a wonderful opportunity to do a lot of walking on the trails out from the downtown area, ride my bike as well. My oldest son is certified in permaculture design. And so I had the opportunity to learn vicariously through some of his activities and learned about Archangel trees up in Mansalona with the ancient tree propagation that they do, and have done a lot of political advocacy over the years, but mostly in the arena of dialysis and nephrology. So I know the drill, but have not applied it to other things and look forward to doing more away from healthcare and medical. So as Bob and I have talked over this past year from time to time, he suggested this might be a good fit. He sent me links to the sustainability program for BC, and I took the time to read through that. And he sent me a link to the application process for this, which I sent off to Andy, and I think somewhere along the line, Mark Binky got a copy. And so now here I am, hoping to be vetted favorably.
All right. Thank you, Janine. Does anyone have any brief questions for Janine, or comments or statements of support for adding her to the committee? We did just lose a member, so it's timely.
I would say I support having Janine as a member.
Thank you.
I also would support that. And I'm another downtown dweller, so I look forward to seeing you around town.
Oh, lovely.
I'll do my best to get her on the committee.
Thank you, Mayor. And any other questions or comments?
I would also obviously add my support. Janine, as she said, she works out, volunteers out here at Pierce. She's around our department. She is, as you know, nonprofits depend on volunteers, and Jean is dependable. She's knowledgeable and a real pleasure to work around. So that was why I encouraged her to come, because I think she'd make a good member to the team.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
And anyone else? If not, I'm hearing a consensus in favor of asking the mayor and commission to add Janine. So thank you, Kiona. I see thumbs up from you. Saw the one from Bessie too. So again, the process for this is the city has a review committee that meets every few weeks or so and takes all the applications for all the committees and sort of considers them. The mayor and the vice mayor and the staff from the various committees and chairs have a Zoom meeting and kind of go over all the appointments and say, okay, yep. That meeting is happening. I forget the exact date. It's either this week or next week. So that meeting will happen. You just heard from the mayor, and Patty and I will be on that meeting and recommend that Jeannie be added. Then if that happens, assuming that will at that meeting, and then it goes on a city commission agenda for an official appointment by the city commission. So I would anticipate that happening over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll let you know, Janine, and then I'll add you to that'll happens. I'll add you to the regular member of the mailing list. You'll be privy to get the schedule emails and all that.
Thanks for explaining the process, and I'll wait to hear from you.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, it's 4:17, so I want to make sure that we do leave. We want to be done by 4:30, and we want to also leave a few minutes for a public comment at the end, in case we need that. So Patty and Kurt and Bessie, if you have some updates reporting to do, if you could offer those as briefly and to the point as possible. If there's something that can be just sent by email or saved till our next meeting, go for it.
Yeah,
I can certainly say for next meeting, as you know,
Okay.
supply issues, all my projects have been postponed pretty much. So I don't have a lot of things to report anyhow.
Okay.
We've had a very busy time since we last saw you guys, but we can send that out. Bessie's got a PowerPoint that it's got just bullet points so you can see what we've been up to. Next event is Wednesday, scrap tire event, and we're a little worried because we had over 13,000 views on our Facebook page. So we are expecting some tires. And I don't know, Bessie, you want us to say a few words about Crazy for the Kazoo that was last Saturday, which was awesome.
Sure. Yeah. We ordered 2 trailers. So for Wednesday, just because we have the feeling that it's going to be needed. But yeah, Saturday was another huge success. We had over 100 volunteers. We planted 15 trees. We had just a great turnout. Some awesome Youth Challenge Academy cadets helped clean up a site by the river, just night and day difference. And we can send those pictures because they are amazing to see. People dump, and they came in and they just cleaned it right up. But yeah, we had a great support this year.
Great. Yeah, I know the Youth Challenge Academy has been a long time partner in that event. They've been doing it as long as I can remember. That's awesome.
And we did have about 20 or so math and science center kids too. And Denzo.
Cool.
So I don't want to leave anybody out, but we had a great turnout. So but yeah.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything. I will make some member comments at the end about the sustainability plan, but how about we ask for public comment at this time? So I know we have a couple of guests right here on the meeting, Janine, Michelle Frank. Hello, Michelle. if you have any comments or questions, or Eric, if there's happens to be anything from the stream.
Nobody else except for who's already on the meeting.
Okay, thank you. So Janine and Michelle, any question or comment?
I do.
Go ahead.
Hello, thanks for letting me sit in on this. I wanted to let this committee know that I'm working on a partnership project with the Art Center of Battle Creek. It's going to be next October 4th, 2023, for about 4 to 6 weeks. It's an exhibit that will deal with climate change issues and water quality issues. And it will be international exhibits, but combined into one. And I'm hoping to engage this community further as time goes on. But I wanted to let you know a year in advance. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you for that. If I've learned anything over the years, it's that municipal governments or any organization of this size moves at the pace of years, and so that it's not actually that far ahead of time. So thank you.
Well, one addition with that is the zoo, KCC, Willard Library, Kingman Museum, and the libraries and a number of other players have already been contacted, and they're very interested in supporting it in various ways. So I think this will be one of those lovely collaborations between private, public, and independent sectors.
Awesome. Thank you. Jean or anything else? It's okay if not. Okay. All right. I will say in response to what Michelle's talking about, one of the things, one of the sort of vague or most general things about our sustainability plan in its current form is for the city to strive to become a partner and a leader in the wider community around sustainability issues and climate change and best practices and these kinds of things. So that plan our sustainability plan needs to be updated going into the new year. And hopefully that will be one of the parts of the plan that gets beefed up or starts getting some more particulars around it. So maybe this thing that Michelle is talking about, building a coalition around just this one event could help us sort of move down that road a bit. Before I open it to other member comments and announcements, I will say around the subject. So yes, our sustainability plan is due for a refresh, rewrite, update, whatever verb we want to put to that. I've already, I think that will be in our December. We do not meet in November. We'll meet again in December. So I would anticipate the December meeting and probably the meeting right after that, whatever our schedule ends up being, will be focused primarily on the sustainability plan and what we need to be doing to update it. So that will be our subject for the December meeting. I've already gone down the road of starting to communicate with the city manager's office. My vision, for at least for the beginning part of this, would be that me and Patty as the staff liaison for this committee, work with the city manager's office and kind of say, okay, what do we need to do to refresh this plan? Because when we refreshed it, it's 4 years old. When we refreshed it 2 years ago, that refresh was primarily a hey, let's shift the dates. Let's just change the 3s to 5s, and there was some other more substantial changes, but those were pretty limited. I'm anticipating this being a little bit more robust overhaul of the plan, which will of course necessitate engaging city staff and getting input and whatnot. So we'll want to be getting started on that process. So I will work with staff on that sort of behind the scenes over the next month or so, and then circle back to you all with some updates on how that's going to proceed. And I envision that, like I said, being the primary focus of the December meeting. All right, we got just a couple more minutes. Any other member comments or announcements? Yeah, Sarah, I was going to go to you. Go ahead.
There is a household hazardous waste collection October 10th at Bailey Park from 2:30 to 5:30 for residential material.
Ooh, awesome. At Bailey Park. On that note, Patty, Bessie, does DPW still have the battery boxes?
We do, yes. We probably have maybe a year's supply left at the pace we're going, and we will
Okay.
not be replacing those, but we do have them currently. If anybody, you can pick them up between 7:30 and
Yeah.
4 at DPW.
All right. I have a pail in my basement full of batteries that I need to, that was a personal question and a public service announcement. Other members, comments or announcements?
Just have one question, if possible.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Michelle.
Is the sustainability plan focused on strategic goals and comprehensive, or is it focused on specific aspects of sustainability? Okay, that's
A little bit,
strategic.
a little bit of each. I can forward you that plan here when we get off the plan. I'll forward you. It's on the city's website, but I'll email it to you here when we get done. Yep. Any other comments or questions, announcements? All right, then, as I said, our next meeting is December. That's December 5th. It will be 3:30. It will be on Zoom. Even if you get a calendar invite that says something about city commission chambers, that's just because that had to be all reserved at the beginning of the year. We will be Zoom for the foreseeable future. All right, then. Thank you all very much for your continued commitment to sustainability in the city of Battle Creek, and we will adjourn at 4:27. Thank you all.
Thanks, yeah.
Great meeting, Andy.
Thanks, Mark.